The Rose Song is a piano accompaniment. This tutorial will show you how to play the song on ukulele. If there's a need for you to review the parts of the ukulele, click this link for that lesson. And I urge you to do so because I'll be mentioning frets, fret numbers, string numbers. So you need to know them for our discussion on chords. And for reading chord diagrams, click this link for that lesson. So here are the chords. F major, index finger on the second string at first fret, middle finger on the fourth string at second fret. The first and the third strings are left open. C major chord, ring finger on the first string at third fret. The other three strings are left open. D minor, index finger on the second string at first fret, middle finger on the fourth string at second fret, and ring finger on the third string at second fret. The first string is left open. B flat major, you have two dots at first fret, one on the first string and the other one on the second string. Now for this chord, you would have to use your index finger as a bar finger. So I suggest that you just press all four strings and then position your middle finger on the third string at second fret and your ring finger on the fourth string at third fret. And the last chord is C dominant seventh, index finger on the first string at first fret. The other three strings are left open. So those are the chords, and they are for the left hand to do. What about for the right hand? Now let's discuss the strumming patterns or the rhythmic patterns. For this tutorial, which is actually for beginners, I would suggest basic rhythmic patterns. And those are half note rhythm, quarter note rhythm, and eighth note rhythm. For more detailed lesson on basic rhythmic patterns, click this link for that lesson. So here's the first basic rhythmic pattern. It applies for the intro and the first two verses. As you can see, there are only two downstrokes within a measure. The first one at count 1, the second downstroke right at count 3. We call this pattern half note rhythm. And to illustrate this pattern, I have to do 8 note counting. This tempo, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So my first downstroke would be right at count 1 and the second downstroke is right at count 3. So for the intro, as you can see, we have a sequence of F major, C major, D minor, and back to C major. Each of those chords are for one measure each. Since for half note rhythm, there are only two strokes right at count 1 and 3. So at a slow tempo, it sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now we'll continue with the pattern for verse 1. And so it goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 That's for verse 1. And we continue to verse 2 with the same pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 but going to the next chord, which is C dominant 7th, you see more details. As you can see, there's just one downstroke, and that happens right at count 1. Actually, that rhythm is what we call whole note rhythm. So as you count 1, that's when you make a downstroke, and you have to keep the ringing for the whole measure. So it goes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we move to the next part of the song. As for the next part of the song, I suggest for this pattern. As you can see, you have downstrokes right at count 1, at count 2, at count 3, at count 4. So there are 4 strokes within a measure, and that is what we call quarter note rhythm. And the strumming pattern is all downstrokes. So at the same tempo, here's how the next part of the song sounds like on quarter note rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 but on the next measure it's still B flat major, but you'll see that in that measure there are only 2 downstrokes, one right at count 1 and the next one is right at count 2. And when you get to count number 3, you see the word break. So that means there will be silence starting from count number 3 or count 3 up to the end of that measure. And to illustrate that, it is this one: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so you have to stop the strings from ringing right at count 3 and keep it silent for the next count or next beat, and then going to the next measure where the chord is F major. That's when you apply the quarter note rhythm. So to demonstrate this pattern, I'll start from B flat major on quarter note rhythm and then to B flat major on that rhythm where you only have 2 strokes right at count 1 and 2, and then at count 3 you have silence or rest, and then I'll continue to the next measure with F major chord. So it goes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then to the next measure we just continue with the pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 going to the next part of the song, as you can see, you have another rhythmic pattern. It's still a basic rhythmic pattern, which is what we call 8-note rhythm. As you can see, there are 8 strokes. There are 4 downstrokes, and those are at counts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And in between those counts, where you have the letter N's, you have upstrokes. So there's an upstroke between counts 1 and 2, an upstroke between counts 2 and 3, an upstroke between counts 3 and 4, and the last upstroke between counts 4 and to the next count 1 on the following measure. And to illustrate that, here's how the next part of the song sounds like at the same tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 but on the next lines you see another pattern. You see that there's just one downstroke on each chord. Also, you would notice that the playing time of each chord is for 2 measures. So that means the rhythm for those lines, you have a single downstroke right at count 1 at the beginning of that chord or of each chord, and then you have to hold it for 2 measures. So 1 stroke for 2 measures, and that happens at count 1 of the first measure of each chord. To illustrate that, using F major chord, it sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then to the next chord, which is C major, also one downstroke. You may have noticed that the stroke, the ringing, or the sound may not last for 2 measures. It doesn't matter, but what's important here is that you have to give that stroke a count for 2 measures, or you have to give that stroke a playing time or 2 measures before you move to the next chord. So you have to count for 2 measures, because if you don't count, you might play the next chord early or too early than the specified time. So here's how it sounds like: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 then on the very last line you see the words a cappella in parentheses, and that means as Olivia sings that line, there's no need for accompaniment, so it's just the vocals of Olivia. You don't have to strum anything, you don't have to play any chord at all. So just play the last chord on the preceding measure, B flat, and then when she gets to the next line, just don't strum anymore. So that's how it is. So all 4 basic rhythmic patterns are applied or suggested in this tutorial, and those are whole note rhythm, half note rhythm, quarter note rhythm, and 8 note rhythm. And for the demonstration or playthrough for the song, click this link. I hope you find this tutorial helpful in your practice of the song or learning your ukulele. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next upload. And please click the like button if you enjoy this tutorial or learned something from this tutorial. And also don't forget to share this content so that others may also learn from this tutorial. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Don't forget to click the like and the subscribe button.